And welcome to another edition of Community Matters. I'm Jim Cameron, your host and program director of TV 79. And this is a program where we talk to folks in the community that are making a difference and helping make Darien a better place to live. And no one is more qualified for that appellation than Gina Blum, who comes to us as the executive director. Executive director, is that the right title,
It
Gina?
is, yes.
Of what's now known as At Home in Darien. It's great to have you on the program.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here today.
Now, let's talk a little bit about the history of this organization, and then we'll describe some of the wonderful services you provide. First of all, how long have you been at home in Darien?
I celebrated my 10th anniversary this past summer.
And how long has At Home been around under various names and identifications?
Yeah, so it officially started back in 2009, a couple of years before I joined the group. And it was originally a pilot project through the Community Fund of Darien. And there were several groups in town that were interested in an aging in place organization. Aging in place meaning allowing seniors to live in their residence of choice as long as possible, that they can do it safely.
And originally it was called Aging in Place, was it not?
It was. It started out as Aging in Place in Darien, and there were a few changes in name. There was also an organization in town that served seniors called Galavant, and many people remember Galavant. They provided transportation to seniors. And when people were asked what was needed to be able to age in place, the number one concern, the answer hands down was transportation. People were concerned that when they got older and were limited in some ways, that not being able to drive would really hinder their ability to live independently. So it made a lot of sense for these two groups to merge together, and there were lots of conversations. And right before I joined the organization, there was a merger. So we also were at one point called Aging in Place plus Galavant.
Well, and the marketing people came along and said, well, that's a mouthful.
They sure did.
It doesn't really describe what it is you do, because aging, I'm not aging, I'm not in place. It makes me sound so sedentary. And yet you're really trying to keep people vibrant and out and about in the community too, right?
Absolutely. We're trying to keep them connected to the community. Darien is such a wonderful town to be a part of. And the seniors who live here, I mean, everybody who lives here wants to stay here. I mean, there's so much the town has to offer. And the purpose of the organization is to help people stay connected, to avoid isolation, to be involved in the community.
And we'll talk about some of the services that you provide, but let's get a sense, if you have them, of what the demographics are in town. How many people, older people, are there living in Darien as compared to the vast hordes of children that we know the town is so famous for?
So two thoughts I want to share on that. First, it's so important to have a multi-generational community. It benefits all those kids in town. You know, they need to know what seniors are up to, and that they one day will be seniors themselves, and to have a relationship with them, to be respectful, but to engage with seniors. So we do lots of things with youth. You know, we do things with the kids' care clubs at the elementary schools, just to teach them things, and to have them create Valentine's that's coming up, and they'll make cards that we drop off to seniors, just so that seniors know that people care about them, and it's a benefit on both ends there. Then you asked me about the demographic, who we serve. So we consider everybody who is 60 or better to be a member of our organization at no charge. And that group in Darien is over 3,000 people.
Really? 3,000 out of the, 22,000 that live in Darien?
I'm not certain on that, but I know it's about 16% of the town.
So is that large for a town this size? Are people staying in Darien as compared to other communities where they might be saying, I'm going to Florida or I'm going to North Carolina?
Yeah, a lot of people do like to stay in this town because it There is so much to offer. We do have those snowbirds who go back and forth during the winter, but a lot of people do want to stay here. It is, the statistic is kind of typical of Fairfield County.
Hmm. Well, let's talk about some of the services that you provide. Obviously, as you mentioned, one of the first services that you merged into at home was Galavant,
Yeah.
and that was the van that used to take people from place to place. You actually have a new vehicle that you've just received as a result of another generous donation of the Darien Foundation, right?
Yes, we did. We're so proud about that. Transportation is what people need. It's just so important to get, especially to other towns, like with medical appointments in Stamford and Norwalk and whatnot. But of course, we drive in Darien as well. The vehicle, so Galavant, and many people remember this big giant bus. It was a 12-passenger bus, and it had this humongous name Galavant along the side, and I believe the phone number, if I'm remembering correctly. And when I came on board, that's what we were using. And we never had the van filled to full capacity. There were never 12 people going in the same direction at the same time. And it cost a lot of money to run that huge vehicle. It just lots of gas costs and whatnot, and repair work on it. So we realized that people, especially people of this age, wanted to be private. They wanted they deserve dignity. So we thought, gee, rather than having this huge bus that screams out, I'm getting a ride to all the neighbors and everybody on the road, that we would do something a little more subtle. We added a sedan so that we can have two vehicles on the road. And then we changed that multi-passenger bus to a smaller bus. Not a bus, even, it's just an SUV.
It's like a van, right? I mean, it's
just
not a, it's a little bigger than an SUV.
Yeah, it's the kind of, it's a Toyota Sienna that you see riding around town that people use for all sorts of things, but we had it converted so that it could carry handicapped people. So wheelchairs, people who use walkers and whatnot. And we were so excited just this December to have the Darien Foundation provide a grant for us to purchase a new vehicle. Ours had been aging itself, and it came with so many improvements that vastly made the experience for our riders and also for our drivers so much better.
So it's almost barrier free. There's a ramp that folds down to sidewalk level, and if you're in a wheelchair or you have a walker or a cane, you don't have to do any steps to get into the vehicle, right?
Exactly. So what's so fabulous about it, for people who might have known our old van, which was also a Toyota, so it looks very similar, but the old vehicle had a very steep ramp that came out of the back of the van. So picture the hatch going up, the ramp coming out, and somebody being wheeled into the back of the vehicle. The issue with that was that the rider who was in the wheelchair was separated from their caregiver, who was sitting in a middle row of seats. So it was hard for someone sitting in the middle to have their eyes on the passenger in the back. And it was also challenging for people who used walkers because they couldn't access the vehicle with their walker. So they literally were had to stow their walker away and then make a step up. And it was just difficult for people. So we are so excited and have gotten such great reviews from our riders about how this makes things so much easier for them.
Gina Blum is our guest today on Community Matters. She is the grand honcho, the poobah, if you will, of At Home in Darien. And we're talking about the transportation you provide. How many rides does this vehicle give every week? How many people are using it, and what are the kind of destinations that they're choosing?
Yeah, so the majority of our rides are for medical appointments, and especially now. That's always been the case, but with the pandemic being what it is, and people having limited access to social activities or the desire to go to places where there's so many people, the rides are very much so medically based. So whether it's people going to PT or doctor's appointments or whatever they need to do, we will take them there, but we take them anywhere they want to go. So there's also, whether it's a haircut or out to lunch, like we're happy to bring people wherever they wish to go.
You'll take them shopping if need be?
We do. We do.
And do you drop off and then wait, or do you drop off and say, I'll be back in 45 minutes?
Yeah, so there's a whole scheduling component that we do in the office, and there's a conversation with everybody who calls for a ride. And we try to get estimates on how long people will be so we can determine if it's a drop-off situation or if it's a quick turnaround where it's going to be, I'm just dashing into the library for 10 minutes to pick up some books that are on reserve. Can you wait for me? And so we will figure that out based on the schedule.
And what's the charge for the ride?
There is no charge for the ride, which is fantastic. So some people would like to make a contribution to us for their ride. There's a lot of people who are proud and feel like they don't need a freebie. So if people are interested, we would suggest a $5 round trip fare. And we have lots of people who do that. We have people who do less. We have people who do more.
And do they tip the driver?
No, we don't accept tips.
And who are the drivers?
So we have, the pandemic has changed how we operate, and we had lost several drivers over the past 2 years, just right at the start of the pandemic. So we have one driver right now, Jane Matthews, who's been with us for about 3 years. She's fantastic. She has been with us throughout the pandemic, providing lots of assistance.
And I assume you're licensed and insured and all that good stuff. People
Absolutely.
Didn't have to be worried about hitching a ride with At Home.
Absolutely. And we follow all safety protocol as well. So we are excited to provide an environment in the vehicle where people can feel comfortable and safe. So we actually do ask that people are vaccinated, boosted, and wear masks, and we sanitize in between riders. Right now, we're not combining households. So it's, an individual going to one place, and we just don't want to mix people.
Now, your offices for At Home in Darien are in the sort of side part of Darien Town Hall next to the gymnasium, room 119. And the upper entrance to the senior center. But you're not part of the senior center itself. Is that true?
That's absolutely true. So we are a separate nonprofit organization, and we work so closely, though, with the senior center and with human services in the town hall. And what's great about that is our office is right in between those two organizations, those two town-based organizations. So we do lots of referrals back and forth. We work, the three organizations work like a three-legged stool. We need each other. We make sure seniors have a safety net, and that we, get them what they need.
And where does At Home in Darien get its funding?
Yeah. So At Home in Darien is a private nonprofit organization. So the funding mostly comes from private donors. We do an annual appeal each year, springtime, follow up with it in the fall. And we do receive state grants, some monies from the state, and some other grants from other organizations, as we've mentioned, who are charitable.
And what's your annual budget like?
Just over $200,000.
200,000. So let's talk about the big bang you get for those bucks and some of the other services you provide. You also have a number of volunteer services. Can you talk to us about that a little bit?
Absolutely. So our volunteers are at the core of what we do. They are fantastic and provide great services for seniors. We have shoppers, and as you can imagine, they have been very busy, especially these past couple of years, with going to the grocery store, getting people what they need, and bringing them to them safely. We also have volunteers who visit with seniors. That's kind of changed in the past couple of years. A lot of those visitors have changed to phone call visits, but we do like to visit to keep people connected, to chat, to, our friends, our visitors become quite good friends with our seniors. We also have, we engage a large group of people, and especially younger people, to help with tasks like leaf raking. So we just finished that up in the fall. And now we are working with a group from the Darien High School that does shoveling of snow from public sidewalks. So great volunteers we have who are committed to all sorts of things. Oh, and I should mention, in transportation, we do have volunteer drivers. So sometimes a senior might need to be escorted into an appointment. They want somebody to attend with them. So we bring in volunteers to do that too.
And the leaf raking and the snow shoveling from public sidewalks, not from private homes, I would assume.
Right.
Is there a charge for that?
There is no charge.
So, are you in need of more volunteers to help with either the friendly visitor program or driving or leaf raking and snow shoveling?
We always welcome volunteers. You know, the town has been so generous in giving with their time as well as their resources, but the volunteers, we're not, I must be honest, we're not short on volunteers, but we can always use more people to help.
Hi, I'm Dominique. I've been volunteering with At Home in Darien for a little over a year. I do grocery shopping for the seniors with Nicole.
I really like volunteering at home in Darien. It's a growing concern nationwide, and we're part of a bigger picture, which is exciting. And especially when I drive people, we always end up talking about common things, whether it's what we remember of old Darien, because I've been here for a while, or I remember driving this one sweet man, and he was talking about his service in World War II.
And I'm a volunteer here at Home in Darien, but I've only been here about 8 months or so. One other thing that I have volunteered to do, however, is to be a pen pal for the school, for a child in one of the local schools, and that was a lot of fun.
I was a volunteer shopper for an older woman who lived in town, and when she gave up driving, she needed someone to pick up her groceries for her. It was an immediate connection. She was absolutely delightful, and we immediately bonded far beyond the shopping exercise. And in the course of the few years that I worked with her, I became much more acquainted with the services that At Home in Darien provided. I realized that it was a wonderful resource for our community and wanted to become more involved.
Now, you also have another referral program for service providers. And full disclosure, being a member of At Home in Darien myself, our family uses this service quite often. You might need an electrician or a plumber. And what happens when I call your office and say, I need a plumber?
Yeah, so that happens all the time. And people will call looking for a certain service. Maybe they used to be able to do it themselves, like tinker a little bit with carpentry or something, but now, or maybe their spouse used to do it who's no longer available. And also, I think a lot of people are hesitant to Google and or open a phone book like they used to do, just to pick a name at random. So it's so nice for them to be able to call us, because these people that are on our list, we have vetted them. We have interviewed them. We have checked their references. There's an application process. There's no cost to them, but we really want to make sure that they are licensed if necessary, that they, we've checked with the Better Business Bureau that we don't see any issues around them. And then when someone calls, they will ask for someone. We will give them a couple of names if possible, if we have more than one on our list. And we tell them, it's for hire. So you are contracting with them. We tell them to be careful, like they would with anybody who's entering their house to provide a service. But it gives them peace of mind to know that there's a relationship, that they are trusted here in town, that they know that they have to answer to us if anything is amiss. And we have no problem calling those people or removing them from our list if there's any issues. But what we do is we give that name out, and then we have a volunteer or two who go back quarterly kind of and call those seniors that we've made the referrals to and say, how did you like that plumber or that electrician. And we take down that information, make any changes if needed or contacts if needed, and keep track of all those reports.
It's a fabulous program, and it's so much better than, Angie's List or something else like that, because that there's a lot of diligence that's gone into it, and you are referring vendors who have been used by other people in town, and they're happy with them as well too. And do some of them offer discounts as well to seniors?
Yes, some do. We always ask that they do offer a discount. So it depends on the individual business or person. It might be 10%. It might be some sort of discount for saying that you're a member of At Home in Darien.
Tradesmen are pretty busy these days too, so
They sure are.
it's not like they have to do a lot of discounting.
Right. But we always ask too, if a senior or anybody in town has somebody who they recommend highly, somebody that they want to tell us about, we'd be happy to do the work of getting them on our list.
Great. Speaking of discounts, you also have a membership card, which is good for some discounts at various merchants in town. Is that true?
So, we thought it was, so when someone turns 60 in town, we send them a birthday card, and we send in this card is a membership card, and we kind of write something nice, as if we know you might not need our services now, but maybe you'd want to volunteer with us. Maybe whatever. We want them to be aware for their neighbors, for their loved ones who might need our services. But we also include this membership card. And with this membership card, we have put together a list of, I think, over 40 businesses in town that offer a perk, an incentive, a discount for seniors to come in. There's no charge to the business for being on our list, but it's just this way of respecting seniors, giving them a perk, and encouraging them to shop locally or just be involved in the Darien community. We want to get people connected to the community, so whatever it takes.
And if I have one of those cards, how do I know which merchants are offering those perks or discounts?
Mm-hmm. So we update our list quarterly, and it's on our website, but also we mail it to people who receive our monthly calendar of events, which I'll tell you a little bit about that too. And so that this list is something you can call us to get if you don't get it or can't find it on our website, but also the list is out there so that people know that they can contact those groups and get that kind of little perk. And if you don't have a card, please call us. If you're over 60, we'll be happy to send you one. People do call us for all sorts of referrals that they might need or questions they have, like, where can I borrow a wheelchair? How can I do this? How can I find, and we will do that legwork and get back to them. We have such great relationships with other organizations that we can make referrals to people who need help.
And speaking of wheelchairs, I know that the Human Services Department, which is part of Town Hall, has a room full of loaner canes, walkers, wheelchairs, etc. Should anybody ever need crutches, if you need something like that,
Absolutely.
You don't have to go out and buy new ones. You can get some beautiful, gently used mobility tools, if you will.
Good plug there. And what we do, we're so into helping people, seniors. Like, I can't tell you how many times we connect with the Human Services Department and deliver those items. If someone's having an issue they can't get out, we're going to be happy to deliver them to them. So we do all sorts of customized assistance as people need.
You mentioned we are recording this in January of 2022, and we are 2 years into this COVID pandemic, which has changed everybody's lives. And yet you're still out there providing services. Your van is getting people from point A to point B, doctors' offices, etc. Your friendly visitor program is reaching out to people telephonically, if not in person, visiting their homes. But there are still, Omicron notwithstanding, there are some activities going on where people can actually show up in person and get out of their home and socialize and see other people as well too. You were mentioning you do a newsletter which kind of keeps people updated on all those different events that might be of interest to them. Tell us about that.
So we do a few things. We do a monthly calendar of events. We reach out to about 20 organizations in town that offer events that seniors would be interested in. And we compile those events into a calendar so that you know what's happening Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and you can decide if you're interested in an educational course or an exercise class or painting or whatever it might be. We just want to share that. There's also information in there from the health department or anything that seniors might find useful. And so we email that out to over 1,000 people each month. And then we mail it to almost 200 people who don't use email or are not online, who just prefer to get a hard copy.
Great. Well, this would be a good opportunity. I'm going to put right down here on the bottom of the screen the website address for At Home in Darien. I'll put this up again toward the end so people can know where to get all this great information. One other service that you were mentioning to me before we started recording this program was one I was not familiar with, which is almost a home safety audit. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so our goal is to keep people living independently in their homes. And we also want to make sure that the home is safe for those people so that they can do that. And we have contracted with another organization, the Family and Children's Agency here in Fairfield County, another reputable nonprofit organization. And if someone calls us and says they're interested in having a set of professional eyes take a look at their home and make suggestions to what can be changed, we will work with the Family and Children's Agency to send out a professional who can do that. So they're going to have an eye to rugs, to cords, to handrails, to lighting. And they also do an audit of the person too. Just, it's a professional, whether it's a registered nurse or someone in that capacity who's got experience. They will talk about the individual and make it very personal to their needs. And I should say there's no cost for that. So At Home in Darien does absorb the cost that would be charged for that sort of service. And
here again, it's thanks to your donors that you're able to provide that at no cost to the senior themselves. So we mentioned transportation and the services you provide there, friendly visitors program, out and about, or as we Canadians would say, oot and a boot. We've got a publication that lists all the upcoming activities. What are the other concerns that people aging in place in Darien have told you they have? What are seniors worried about?
Well, what I think they're worried most about right now is getting back to normal, like everybody is, just being able to spend time with their friends in activities that they enjoy. And I think that is the concern for most people, to get back to some semblance of normalcy, whether it's masked or whatnot, but just to be able to safely get out of the house. And my fear is that people have been isolating.
I was just going to say, I would imagine that if you're a widow or widower, you're living alone as it is. And the last 2 years have been really hard because you have not been seeing people face to face, just with technology like this. But TV 79 has a lot of those people as viewers. They are a very loyal part of our audience. So I'm glad to be able to tell them about At Home in Darien and the services you provide. Do you think there are folks in town who either don't know about you or for whatever reason are hesitant to ask for help? I mean, Nancy Coughlin at Person to Person said the people we're most worried about are the ones who are ashamed, afraid, hesitant to ask for help that they need because they're so proud.
Yep. So what helps us with this is we really establish a relationship, a friendship. So people call us, and sometimes they aren't calling necessarily for a service. They just, want to engage, and we chat. We chat on the phone. We talk to people. We find out about them. We check in on people who we haven't heard from in a bit. We just want to make sure that everybody is doing okay, and being able to connect with people is so important. So that's one of our goals too, just to engage people, to make sure they're at home safely if they are home.
And what if somebody is watching this program and they know that they have an elderly neighbor who they may not have seen, maybe doesn't come out a whole lot, is not one of these new people taking a walk every day, enjoying all the fresh air, but because they're elderly and they're just kind of homebound to begin with. What can somebody do to help a neighbor who may be in that sort of situation of isolation?
So we encourage people to call us, and they do call us. People do call about neighbors that they're concerned about. And I love when people do that. It just it's what's so great about being a part of a community, that people are concerned. We have done visits to people. We've engaged human services or even at the police department if we don't get a response, knocking on someone's door like we haven't seen you in a while. And it's an important thing to be able to do. We never want to get to that situation, but when someone's not responding, we look into things. We were supposed to pick you up for a ride and you didn't come out, and we knock on the door. We try to we make sure we connect and find out what's going on.
And people don't think that's big brotherish. They think it's more small townish. Someone's actually caring about me.
I do think it's small townish. We have never had anybody concerned about us coming, like if we're supposed to pick you up and you're not showing up, we want to make sure there wasn't an accident where you've fallen. And we have had that kind of situation before.
Right. And do you have family members, children who call and say, I live in Iowa. Mom is living alone, and can you check in on her?
Yeah, all the time. All the time we have people who are setting what we call adult children, who call us to check in on their parents, to ask about the services, because sometimes it also helps a family if they know what the options are before perhaps, they might be concerned about dad's driving and they want to have some conversation with him, and they want to know what the options might be, what it can be taken advantage of by those people who are loved by their family.
Gina Blum, our guest today on the program being Community Matters. This is a show where we talk to folks from local nonprofits and NGOs, non-government organizations that are helping folks in town. And At Home in Darien is the organization that Gina has worked with for over a decade now, providing incredible service to seniors in town. Is there anything we've missed? We've covered the waterfront and soup to nuts. We've covered all of the services that you have. Is there anything we've forgotten to ask about?
You mentioned our newsletter. So it's called the Out and About newsletter. It goes to every mailbox in town. And I just want to say the reason we do that is so that people can think about loved ones, neighbors and whatnot. So look for that newsletter. Comes out 3 times a year, and give us a call if you want to be on our list to receive more mailings, that monthly calendar events. We do a blog every month. We want to keep people well informed of all the issues, concerns, and the opportunities that seniors have.
Okay, folks, stay tuned. I'm going to put a slide up here in a second that's got all the contact information. So grab that proverbial pencil and paper, and you'll be able to jot down a phone number, an email address, if you have email, a website address. It's all available, and it's 99% of it's free of charge through At Home in Darien. Gina Blum, our guest today on the program. I want to thank you so much, not only for joining us today, but for all the good work that you and your colleagues do for folks who are living at home in Darien.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and I love the work I do.
Thanks. And thank you, our viewers, for watching yet another edition of Community Matters.